Hi, everybody. This is Jason.
This is Pete.
This is the Lost Legions podcast. And today, Pete, what are we going to talk about?
Just spoilers. No spoilers.
All right, we'll end the video. No spoilers. Nobody wants to know. What are the spoilers? What do they do for you?
They are what they do for me. Well,
yeah,
that's another topic.
For you lately?
Nothing. I haven't used any yet, but I plan to very soon. They are. Yeah, I'm going to actually read out their little blurb here. I'm going to bring it out because it's nice. This was so fun. Right, so when close quarter fighting is expected, Legion tactical squads will be equipped in the Despoiler role, a term that refers to tactical legionnaires that forged a standard bolter, forgo the standard bolter in favour of alternative weaponry.
With our crack team of editors.
So yeah, they just drop their bolter, pick up their chainsaw and pistol instead. Like, to war! There's more, but I'm not going to read all that. But yeah.
That's fine.
It's great.
I think they get the idea.
yeah, a bunch of savage chainsaw hacking lunatics, right?
You have a chainsword and a bolt pistol.
Yeah.
And again, this is a troops squad, which has line, which means you can score. So we're kind of going through your line choices, why you take them, and why they're good. So the other thing they have is Spite of the Legion. So you want to explain what Spite of the Legion does? Yeah,
so Spite of the Legion replaces, not replace anything, it's instead of Fury of the Legion, like their cousin Tactical Marine has. If the enemy unit that they are charging is characterless or is pinned, the Despoiler unit will gain an additional attack on the charge.
So they basically pick on anybody who is behind the 8-ball, wounded, anything.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, they're literally a pack of Ravagers. It's so good.
They also have Heart of the Legion, which stacks really well with an Apothecary, which gives you a bonus +1 to your Feel No Pain when you're near an objective. 6 inches, I think?
Within 6 inches of the objective, yeah.
So yeah, that is good. I mean, they have frag, crack grenades, a chainsword, and a bolt pistol. And what upgrades can they get? Let's kind of go through those because they like a lot of these, they can take so many upgrades per amount of guys.
Yeah. So they're kind of similar to assault squads in the fact that like 1 in 5 guys may be upgraded to have a specific weapon. But they get some interesting Wargear, in particular the charnable weapons. So we'll start with the close combat weapons. They can 1 in 5 models can have a power weapon or a charnable weapon. They're one of the very few units that can have access to charnable weapons in the army list, which is really cool. And the way that rending works now, charnable sabers are rending 5+, so your AP2 on the roll of the 5+ to wound. That's really cool, right? Especially on your basic guys that are just hacking away at whatever, right? Terminators or elite infantry going at initiative order. It's pretty big.
But I think this is an interesting debate because I've kind of thought about this. Okay. And where I arrived at was I thought that power axes are going to be your best option. And this is what I arrived at for assault squads. And the reason I thought about this is charnable weapons, you're not getting any bonus because you're not in a challenge because you're just a regular dude. The 5-up rending is great. It's really good. It makes you AP2. But if you're in a large squad, like a 20-man squad, you're probably going to hit anyway. So the difference is those AP1 power axes are wounding on 3s, and they're probably going to land anyway. Then they're AP2 power axes. And then everyone's a guaranteed AP2 hit. So I do like the charnable weapons. I think they're great. I think they're and I'm glad that more people have access to them. I personally like them more on a sergeant because they get that
challenge.
Yeah, exactly. So they have the duelist edge, I think is it called?
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. Which gives you +1. Well, it gives you an increment in your initiative value, right? Yeah.
So this is what I did with my Night Lords. It was my assault squad, but you can kit them out the exact same way. But I gave them power axes, and then I gave the sergeant a charnable saber to take out that power fist or whoever he's hopefully fighting against. Maybe a Terminator sergeant if I'm really, really, really lucky.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was kind of my thought process. I don't know how you think about it.
I never really thought of that. Actually, that makes a very good point. Because I guess it'll kind of depend. It won't. It will. It just depends on what you're fighting against, doesn't it? So if you're fighting against a load of guys with power swords, for example, then you're going to want to have those charnable weapons or power swords yourself, I guess, over the power axes, because the power axes, there's a chance they might not get to swing at all, right?
Yeah.
But
you're fighting Templars or something, right? Like,
yeah.
2+ armor save and a power sword.
Yeah.
So this is your exact scenario, right?
Yeah, they're designed to cull you, right? So yeah, I think it really just does depend. I think you're right. I think the power axe, because the 15 other chainsword or 14 other chainsword attacks going off is gonna be a lot of damage anyway, right?
A lot of this comes from my Space Wolf experience, and they're kind of like the de facto Despoiler Squads.
Yeah,
I run a lot of power axes, and that's what I've found is
de facto. Sorry, that's made me chuckle.
The masked power axe actually I find is pretty powerful.
Yeah.
Again, because it's like wounding on 3s, and like a lot of times those guys are left, because especially now where you can pick the guys that go, you pick the chainsword guys, and then the power axes go, and a lot of times they'll just bring it home. So I mean, like, my personal recommendation is for power axes, but I think that the Charnable Saber has its place, and I think you could argue for power swords. It all depends on what you're fighting.
Yeah.
But it's the eternal optimist in me that always thinks that my guys are going to be there to chop you anyway.
Yeah, too right. I think that's a very good point. Yeah.
That's my thought on that. I mean, what are your thoughts on what do you arm your sergeant with in this squad?
So I would go with a Charnable Tabar, I think it is. Tabar, however you pronounce it.
Okay.
Which is the Christ, I think he gets +2 strength rending, rending 5+, but is two-handed or something along those lines. So you're going to get
and duelist edge too,
and
right?
duelist edge 1, I think. Yeah. So you're going to still get the rending wounds, which is cool, but you're going to wound on 3s as well. So you're just more likely to get that extra wound. I also think it will be modeled very cool to have a guy with a huge tabar. I can't see my hands, but like holding it two-handed, running at someone will be how I would model one for sure.
It's like a bladed polearm, right?
Yeah, exactly that. Yeah.
I think you have a lot of cool modeling options with that, actually.
Yeah, and I think because they're new, like having charnable weapons in your squads like this is still quite a novelty at this stage. So I think they're quite fun modeling opportunities.
What about the plasma pistol, heavy chainsword?
Yeah, I was about to say about those. So I think the pistols, I don't know if it's worth it, because this unit you definitely want to have in combat. And if you're going to shoot with them, they're most likely going to get shot back at, and you're likely going to take an overwatch on when you charge in as well. So you don't really want to be shot at twice in your own turn. So I don't know, man. I don't think it's worth it.
I don't shoot a lot. Like, so again, let me go back to my Space Wolf experience with their de facto.
Yeah.
This is
5-star de facto.
But they play very similarly. To a Despoiler Squad, right? Because they have a pistol chainsword, basically a pistol close combat weapon, and they're running.
Yeah.
So like, I don't put any special upgrade pistols in them for the same reason, especially in 2.0. And I think that you pointed out. I mean, every once in a while I'll fire with them when I'm not worried about getting shot at, right?
Yeah.
I'll let loose with the 20 bolt pistols. But like, I wouldn't pay the extra points for the plasma pistol. I think that that's a bad option.
Yeah.
If you'd like to do it, right? Like, I'd definitely throw artificer armor on that sergeant because he's going to be in a challenge. This is a close combat squad. I think that is definitely something I would consider. Maybe melt the bombs. How do you feel about melt the bombs on these guys?
On the sergeant?
Yeah. Because to
be honest,
they're going to be up in the enemy's grill. So, I mean, this is one I would consider maybe taking a melted bomb if you don't have a power fist.
It might. it's one of those things that if you've got like 5 dudes of your Despoiler Squad left, it's turn 4 or 5, you've got to make that tank go, then it's useful. But I don't think chucking your 20-man squad straight in with the intention of using 1 melter bomb is a good idea. Do you know what I mean?
Yep.
You've probably already lost. So yeah, in my opinion, I wouldn't bother. But then, arguably, in the snow, like I said, when it's late game, it could make a big difference.
I also think that the other thing we should maybe mention is that for the Legion upgrades, I think the one that is definitely worth it for these guys is the Vexilla. To give them
that shadow doubt.
That +1 combat resolution, I think, is a really good a good upgrade for them. I think that's something you might want to consider for 10 points.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely, man.
What about squad size or dedicated transport? What would you recommend?
I'd be tempted to take them on foot.
Yeah, me too. I think,
and try and leapfrog them the best. It depends on the game and the mission, but try and leapfrog them the best you can to be within 6 inches of an objective marker.
Yeah.
To ride that Heart of the Legion special rule work with your apothecary and just keep pumping 4+ feel no pains around. And
I would definitely think about running them with a apothecary. Like, I think
it's needed, right? Really, for sure.
I mean,
you're going to get a lot out of the Legion rule there.
I think the problem is the Rhino transport doesn't do anything for them because they can't charge out of it.
Correct.
So at that point, you'd rather have attack squad that can pop out and shoot.
Yes.
The other thing you could do, if you want to keep them safe, you can slap 20 of them in Spartan. At this point, you're talking about like 400 points for a whip for them to ride around in, right? So like, Spartans are more expensive than they used to be. So is that worth it at this point?
Yeah, look, they are how many points today? 100 points, 110 points. So you can literally get another 40 despoilers for protecting 20 in a Spartan. Yeah. So you can have 20 in a Spartan or 60 on foot.
Yeah, exactly.
So like, when you literally think of it like that, right? It's a bit mad. What do you think about the heavy chainswords? I wish it was better than what it is. It's just not worth it, I think.
I love the way it looks. I love it. I wish it was better.
Yeah.
I think the T-bar is going to be better for you.
No, I mean, like every model may take a heavy chainsword though, right? So you can swap out your chainsword for heavy chainswords. Yeah. So the point I'm getting at is it worth 2 points to go strength 6 with shred rather than strength 4 with shred? And go two-handed, so you lose an attack.
No,
it's not worth it, is it?
It's not rending, is it? It's not rending or breaching.
No, so you wound on 2s, but you lose an attack.
I mean, the fact you're wounding on 4s with shred versus you're wounding on 2s with shred, but you lose an attack. I think I'd rather wound on 4s with shred. Yeah. I just don't think it's worth it. I mean, it depends, right? Like, if you're fighting a dreadnought, it's probably better. But like, if you're fighting a dreadnought with your Despoiler Squad, you're probably screwed. So
you probably use your auto-hitting crack grenades, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So exactly. So
yeah.
I unfortunately, I think, unless you have one like me, who I randomly have one heavy chainsword model.
It's just it should be I actually think it should just be a free option to trade out. I genuinely think. Yeah, it's the same power. Had to be strength 6, lose an attack, or strength 4, gain an attack.
This is something I thought interesting too. Looking at this option, I hadn't kind of realized this. They can swap out their chainsword for another bolt pistol.
Yeah, so I really want to do this, and it will be terrible. But can you imagine?
It's gonna look fucking rad.
Like 100 of them. With double pistols, right? Led by a Moritat, with Despoiler Squads dropping down with jump packs in front. Just the only rule is everyone must carry 2 pistols.
Not a chainsword in sight. Pete's 1,000
braces for everyone. Yeah,
was firmly routed from the table without causing a casualty.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, I just think again, like, why you don't really want to be shooting with this unit.
I do not hate that option. That's just just because it's cool. It is in no way good, guys. In no way is it good at all.
If they got, I don't know, man, like if it was plus 1 point, like to lose reroll wounds in combat for a combat unit.
Yeah, I don't understand why it's not a free option either.
Yeah.
Like, that should be a free option too.
Like maybe you can use your pistols in close combat for a Despoiler special rule or something, rather than, so you maybe hitting on your ballistic, so you're hitting on freeze or something. I don't know. Like there needs to be like for a point more. Like why bother?
I'm not mad that the option's there. Just
they thrown it in and it is flavorful, but it just the rules wise it doesn't work. Like there's no reason to change that. And I like doing some quirky weird ass shit. But yeah, that's yeah.
Well, let's round this off by talking about what legions have really interesting spoilers, and then we can wrap this up.
Yeah.
So first, I'd like to kind of call out the Night Lords, and I actually think that the Night Lords, because they get +1 to wound if they outnumber you, and Despoilers you tend to take 20 guys, right? So a lot of the times you're going to outnumber people. So they're going to be this relatively cheap squad with shred, wounding on 3s, re-rolling. I think that's really good. Also, if you have a character in there with Bloody Murder, which gives you +1 to your charge range and +1 to attack for pretty much the same conditions that Spite of the Legion has, you're going to be absolutely shredding people with Bloody Murder. So this is, I mean, they already have to be falling back, pinned, or actually, Bloody Murder, it doesn't work if you have a character. It doesn't matter if you care. They have to be falling back or pinned. But like you can get in situations with the Night Lords Despoilers where you're just going to be putting the hurt on people.
Yeah.
You mentioned the Emperor's Children. You want to talk about them a little bit?
Yeah, I think, just because this is a mostly initiative striking unit, striking at an initiative higher than your common foe will be good, right? So Emperor's Children get +1 on initiative when on the charge with all weapons. It just makes a lot of sense, I think. Your Sonic Shriekers as well on those units that you can take for certain rights of war means that you can be hit. Your opponent hits you on one less than normal. So if they were hitting you on 4s, they'd be hitting you on 5s with Sonic Shriekers, for example. So you can make yourself harder to hit. You can make sure you hit him first. I think it's a good little trope.
I think another one that's really simple but will be very effective and good, and you're going to see them on the table a lot, is World Eaters. And it's just +1 attack, and they have chain axes, right? So they're strength 5, shred, and they get +1 attack. So like it's very simple, but they're going to be deadly. Like top tip: if you do not want to lose to World Eaters, don't get charged by World Eaters. That is my number one rule.
Yeah,
do not let them, in under any circumstances, charge you, even if they're pleading for you to get out of your armored box so they can charge you. Don't do it. Doesn't matter how many cookies they promise you.
And you can always trade that chain axe for a bolt pistol, just for 1 point more. Can you imagine the first World Eaters player? Like, so I got 100 Despoilers with dual bolt pistols.
Well, that's exactly what you're going to do in your Emperor's Children army, right? Perfect.
Yeah.
Emperor's Children's gunslinger army.
Oh, God. Curving bullets around corners.
Well, speaking of curving bullets around corners, why don't we talk about the other interesting choice?
Great segue. Yeah, so again, these guys have a lot of flavor they can add to multiple units. We had a bit of a discussion about this before we started recording, and you could go Pyre, which so your sergeant could cast Pyre, which is a firewall from each guy sort of thing, which grants you Hammer of Wrath 2. Which is huge. So, 2 additional attacks for base-to-base models that instantly hit. That's pretty awesome on a cut-and-weight unit that wants to be going and striking first. And Hammer of Wrath is always at initiative 10, isn't it? Yeah. So there's that. Or, as I sort of pointed out earlier, Jay, you could go with the... there's a... What's the rule? Is it? Corvidae. Yeah. Which lets you grant the first wound to any model you wish. So you can take plasma pistols, thinking about it more, you could just do all the bolter wounds or bolt pistol wounds and get it off. And you could take out the enemy character, which then grants the Spite of the Legion rule to work, so you're getting an extra attack that way as well. So there's a few things you could do. On reflection, I think the Pyro one with the Hammer of Wrath just makes more sense.
It's more simple. And you're
not going to get shot back at as well, right?
Do something fancy, right? Like, so, I mean, I think that's what you're just kind of finding with the Thousand Suns is because they have so many rules, they could do a bunch of fancy plans. Right?
Yeah.
And that never went wrong for them, ever, never
Not once. No.
Yep. They did nothing wrong.
Never.
Speaking of doing nothing wrong, let's move on to the Space Wolves. So I think would make a great Despoiler squad. However, you will never see them because their special unit Despoilers are so much better. Unless you wanted to randomly save a few points because these guys are cheaper and can take less power weapons. But Space Wolves can run in charge, right? So they're going to be some of the best Despoilers out there. I think that is just hands down good for them. But again, like, you're never going to see Space Wolf Despoilers. You're always going to see their special Legion Despoilers. The other one I think that's good mention was Blood Angels. Again, like, because they're going to need one less to wound on the charge. So I think they're going to have really good Despoilers and Assault Marines too, frankly.
Yeah. But I think actually Blood Angels ones in particular, with, as we were saying earlier about the power axes, Jay, would be pretty cool, right? So those power axes are going to wound on 2s rather than the 3s. That's quite a nice bit of synergy there, really, against your T4 models, right?
Yeah. I did this. This happened with the Night Lords.
Yeah.
With my assault squads. They just came in with their wounding on 2s all the time with their power axes. Just like, okay, you're dead.
Yeah.
The last one that we kind of brought up was Pete's old army. Do you want to talk about that?
Which one? Oh my god, can't remember.
Raven.
Oh, the Raven Guards. Yeah, because you can. Sorry. Yeah. And which army? So with the Raven Guards, you'll be able to infiltrate them, get them at the board quicker, have them in position to do lots of funky stuff, and just be an immediate threat, right?
Yeah.
I think that's the key with them. So
I think it's an interesting choice, right?
Yeah. Definitely.
We're just kind of pointing out interesting choices and things that you might not see or things you always will see because they're really good.
Yeah.
So, do you have any final thoughts on Despoilers? I think they're a good squad. I think that I think it definitely is an in-your-face kind of upfront play style. I like it a lot. I play them with my Space Wolves. I'm saying de facto.
Yeah.
But like, I play very similar units with my Space Wolves, and I think you can have a really good army with the Despoilers as your front line. What do you think?
Yeah, I think they're the best choice of the line units for taking backline objectives.
Yeah.
Because you bung them in a transport or run them up in a 20-man blob. Probably if your goal is to actually capture something at the end of the table, whack them in a transport with an apothecary, get your assault off turn 3 or 4, and you're going to be getting your 4+ feel no pain, all those combat attacks. You're going to be locked in combat, hopefully, so you can't be shot at that, be a real nuisance, because you don't want to be doing too much damage, but, you want to be able to win that objective towards the end of the game just by wearing your opponent down. I think there's a lot of potential power there. But yeah, I think they're not the most straightforward. They're straightforward in essence of how you'd use them, but I think people are going to just have them deleted immediately over and over again. And you have to have a bit of a plan how to keep them alive for a bit longer.
Yeah, I think, and quantity can be a quality, right? Like with these guys, like 100 of them, then it's going to be harder for your opponent to deal with them. If you have one squad of 10, well, you better come up with a way to keep them safe, because otherwise they're just going to die before they get anywhere.
Cool.
But that's our thoughts on Despoilers, guys. Thanks for listening. Give us a like, give us a subscribe, leave your comments below. Tell us about how you feel about what legions have the best Despoilers.
Thanks, guys. Take care.
Have a good one. Bye.